The Chinese army is about to find itself in uncharted territory. 700 soldiers are about to join a peacekeeping mission in one of the most hostile countries on Earth. Thrown into the midst of a brutal civil war, these men and women are on the battlefield for the first time and need to learn fast. Filmed by the soldiers themselves, this documentary shows the frontline view as China's army is deployed to a war zone. In South Sudan, a violent civil war has been raging since 2011. A battalion of Chinese soldiers has been dispatched to join the United Nations peacekeeping mission, hoping to bring stability and security to this country. They have had to learn quickly how to deal with threats from soldiers and civilians.
我们的职责就是去呵护生命。我想我们去维和，是我们希望能够为当地送去一些和平。
This group of 700 soldiers includes Company Commander Wang Zhen and Political Officer Lu Chengjun. Veteran Army medic Liu Jian supports the team. And Army camera operator Yang Jiaofei records their every move. Their mission is to protect the United Nations headquarters, known as UN House, and the civilians who have taken shelter within its protection of civilian sites, known as POCs.
We've got a very long mandate. Essentially, it comes down to two things. One, we have to build peace, and two, we need to protect civilians. If there's no peace, then our job protecting civilians becomes very important.
South Sudan is the world's youngest country. It gained its independence from the north in 2011. But after only 2 years, war erupted between government and rebel forces. The government is led by Salva Kiir, a member of the Dinka ethnic group. They are at war with the opposition led by Riek Machar, a member of the Noya ethnic minority. Both sides have stoked ethnic tensions in the war, driving deep divisions through the country. China contributes an infantry battalion to the large international peacekeeping mission in South Sudan. For many of the soldiers, this will be their first experience of active duty.
我感觉到在和平年代，我们作为一名军人，是吧，能代表祖国出征，是我们最大的荣耀。能走出国门，展现我们这个国家的一个窗口，也感觉这是无比荣耀和骄傲。可以代表我们中国去执行这些一项特殊的任务，觉得很光荣。 是一个当兵的一个梦想吧，应该是。
我们出去维和，就是中国军队强大了，我们能走出去啊！就是我们可以，就是我们现在行，我们行，谁还敢欺负我们啊？那就是无形当中，实际那只有我们行了，那中国才行，那才没人敢欺负你啊！
这个维和行动。 我们国家已经进行了好多年了，这不能说是像一口吃个大胖子之类的事情，是一个长久的一个积累的一个过程，在时间的积累，在潜移默化中慢慢的改变一些，只要有改变，它就是好的，就是对的，就是正确的。
我们是一个战斗集体了，是一个大家庭了。
们在一块儿，然后并肩战斗。我们当时的所有的心情，可能最突出的一点就是，我们为国出征了。我们手持着、手擎着国旗，我们要对着国旗负责任。然后，前方可能会有很多困难、很多麻烦，我们都不畏惧。我们在一起，我们是一个集体，没有问题。
Since 1990, China has dramatically increased its involvement in UN peacekeeping and is now one of the top providers of troops and funds to peacekeeping missions. Chinese soldiers have worked for the UN in Mali, Lebanon, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Darfur. But they have sent by far the most soldiers to South Sudan. The United Nations headquarters in South Sudan is just outside the capital city, Juba. This is where the Chinese battalion live and work. The peacekeepers take daily patrols through the POC camps and provide 24/7 surveillance from sentry posts around the base. Threats from the civil war can flare up outside the camp with little warning. And disputes inside the camp can quickly turn violent. Outside the UN camps, they must also make their presence felt in the dangerous and remote areas of this divided nation.
The population of South Sudan is overwhelmingly rural. A number of people that live in Juba, in the capital city, is 500,000 or 600,000, while there are about 9 million people who live out in the rest of the country. So we have to get out there and see the population because that's where they are.
如果当地出现了一些混乱或者冲突或交火，我们进行处理，这是长途巡逻的意义。一般的区域都会是确定的或者设置的一些容易出现冲突的，或者有双方交火。
Lieutenant Colonel Liu Chengjun and medic Liu Jian are due to go on a long-distance patrol. It will take 2 days, if everything goes to plan.
保证走分的2桌，我那一辆中级车，中正头那一辆中级车，分2桌，保证走分的2桌。
They set off before dawn. And on day 1, they proceed smoothly. They cover 100 kilometres in just 3 hours. Fast progress on South Sudan's treacherous roads. After 5 hours on the road, Liu Jian makes sure the team is staying healthy. Temperatures are hitting 40 degrees inside the vehicles. It would be easy for the peacekeepers to become dangerously dehydrated.
继续喝啊，谢谢你，好吧？那个司机在哪儿啊？
前面我们等下递给他一下。
啊，你把这个给他，要困了他要去摸一摸，好吧？注意安全。
This traditional Chinese medicine protects the soldiers from heat stroke, a condition that can cause permanent neurological damage and potentially kill.
The temperature in South Sudan is generally extremely hot and creates difficult conditions for people to work in. During the dry season, temperatures can really soar up to about 40 degrees, and in the wet season it can get extremely humid and sticky. Usually if you're working in somewhere like South Sudan, the best thing is to do in order to deal with the heat is to break your day up. So for example, to work from the very early morning and then in the afternoon, and try and do a little less during the real heat of the midday.
It hovers around between 35 and 40 throughout most of the year. So it's a weather where you really don't want to be very busy in the middle of the day in the sun.
Unfortunately for the peacekeepers, their work continues whatever the weather.
It's hot. It's hot all year. It's a difficult environment to work in. It's dusty sometimes, and other times it might be raining and you'll be literally got boots on to walk through the mud. It's not an easy environment to work in. Peacekeepers here have a pretty tough life, frankly. They do a very, very valuable job. They live in very tough conditions. It's very difficult to move around, and often it's quite frustrating for them.
Soon, the team are back on the road, scouting for signs of danger. But then, one of the convoy's APCs stops. In South Sudan, a convoy of Chinese peacekeepers have hit a problem on the road. One of the armoured personnel carrier's all-terrain tyres develops a fault.
我觉得我们出去执行长途巡逻任务，或者是武装护卫，大的故障就很麻烦，就可能你整个车队你要停下来，所以这种情况是最麻烦的。我们也尽量去避免这种情况，要做在这个行军之前要做好充分的准备。
But they're prepared and have a spare, so they can get moving again quickly. But before long, they have to deal with another challenge. Where to pitch their camp?
要在野外宿营可以非常危险，因为很多武装分子在晚上，远离我们的大本营。
我们出去执行任务，经常遭到这个反对派或者一些不明武装的这个袭击，冷枪啊，放冷枪。
It is dangerous to travel at night. The UN only travel by day, we wouldn't travel by night, so if we couldn't get somewhere by nightfall, we would then pitch our tent.
As they find a place to stop, they take precautions to ensure their vehicles stay safe in the night.
这个硫磺粉撒了起什么作用啊？
防蛇、防蝎子，以及非洲的一些昆虫啊，还有蜈蚣啊，它见了硫磺粉，它就不往里跑了。
Next, they pitch their camp. They'll be staying in close quarters. And Liu Jian isn't expecting a good night.
因为是我们出去执行任务呢，要住到荒郊野外，有蝎子、毒蛇，一些什么野生动物非常多，都住到没有床，全是在地下睡，都是单兵帐篷。
The next day, they're up before dawn again.
昨天晚上感觉睡得怎么样啊？
还可以，就是帐篷太小，我个子太大，腿伸不开，头抬不起来。还能体验到和战士们在一块吃饭的这种乐趣，我感觉到我心态是非常年轻的。
现在我虽然50岁的人了，我特别喜欢我们这帮战士。他们那种这个阳刚之气，哎，他们那种乐观的这个精神。
Now, they must return to Juba. Because inside UN House, trouble is brewing. Civilians are protesting the conditions inside the protection camps. They mass at the east gate of POC 1, right on the edge of the area reserved for China Battalion. The Rwandan police hold the gate, But if it turns violent, they are hugely outnumbered.
现已通知他们待命防暴队迅速出动，完毕。
If civilians break into UN House, it would put the security of the peacekeepers and UN staff at risk.
It's quite normal for civilians in South Sudan to own their own weapons. They're really ubiquitous across the country.
Traditionally, we had weapons, we had spears and clubs. We didn't have machine guns and Kalashnikovs. But now you go to any village in South Sudan, every young man has a gun. The rebel army lived amongst the population. They depend on them to feed them and stuff like that. And as a result, a lot of weapons filtered to the civilians. So not only is the army a security threat, but even the civilians now is a problem.
As protesters begin to get through the gates, reinforcements from China Battalion are called in.
那个场面还是比较大的。当时我们出动了，就是全营出动2个半连的力量进难民营里边，印象很深刻。那个气温那时候有将近50多度，我们全副武装全部进去，因为我们那的里边是有我们的防暴力量的，防暴力量带着我们穿着我那个带着我们这个防暴的一些装具，比如说这个头盔啦、盾牌这些东西，包括防暴棍。
On the spot, an Indonesian police officer gives the team some advice.
For your rifle, please stay in there. Okay, we don't want to see them. Okay, please stay in there.
Brandishing their firearms could provoke the protesters to reach for their own weapons. But the peacekeepers aren't going in empty-handed. They take electrified riot restraints with them. The restraints pincers are made of aviation-grade aluminium. They can lock around an armed intruder and deliver a short, sharp electric shock, instantly and non-lethally disarming them. With this show of strength, the peacekeepers begin to try and defuse the situation.
It's not safe here because it's very crowded, and these children, small boys, is not safe here. Please come down and let these children back.
It's now clear these protesters cannot force their way into the camp. But the peacekeepers don't know if this protest might flare up again. In Juba, South Sudan, Chinese peacekeepers have broken up a protest that could have turned into a riot. A display of strength and experience diffused a difficult situation. A peaceful resolution like this is only possible because of the combined efforts of peacekeeping forces from many countries across the globe.
Communication can be very difficult. You're talking with people whose English is not their first language. It may be their second or third language. So making sure that you take the time to understand what each other's saying, confirm that everyone understands exactly what has been meant, is really important. It's also really important, and was a lesson that I learned, was that just because someone cannot speak good English does not mean that their views should not be listened to. There is a huge resource from other countries of different ways of thinking that is really important to making the UN work. And actually, I think it really overall helps with the peacekeeping, because if you're in a mindset where you want to listen to people rather than just hear them, then I think that makes a big difference.
The peacekeepers from other countries don't just bring different knowledge that helps the mission. They all bring different experiences and attitudes.
因为维和部分营除了我们中国人之外，还有很多别的国家，比如印度啊、肯尼亚啊、埃塞俄比亚啊、 还有日本工兵啊之类的，我们之间也是一个相互的比较。我们交流比较多的孟加拉的军人，这个孟加拉这个国家的军人给我们感觉就是上下级的观念特别强。然后中间我们跟一个孟加拉的军人聊天的时候，他突然问过我们一个问题，他说：“你不怕你们的 boss 吗？”我说我们不怕呀。他的意思说他直摇头，他说我不能理解。我说你们的军队和我们的不一样。我说我跟我们的上级在工作中是上级，我们私底下的生活我们都是亲兄弟一样，不会像你们那样等级观念那么深也那么强。我说我们不是，我说我们都是兄弟，生死兄弟。他一直摇头，很不解。我说这是中国特色。
你像埃塞俄比亚，他们也有个步兵营在那儿，他们这个国内就是常年战乱，从他们身上能学到很多了。他们身上的一些战术素养，包括他们对这个实战意识，尤其是他们的心理素质。我们的心理素质和埃塞营，包括其他几个，就是从战场上走下来这几个营相比，还是有差距的。他们确实，我不说是临危不乱吧，但是咱一看就是见过大场面的人，就是包括他们这个每一个指挥的口令，他们每个单兵的动作，感觉是有条不紊的。你看我们的装备，我们那个每个单兵啊配的都有红外热成像仪，包括我们那个每支步枪上装备都有这个微光夜成像。就夜间射击，其他部队的，你像尼泊尔、埃塞这些国家的军队，他们的武器，他夜间射击是看不清的。只有我们的武器是夜间射击也没有问题，那300米以内嘛，所有东西都能看清楚。其他国家在一块执行任务的时候，他看着我们装备拿过去，就是那种眼神啊，那个就是感觉又不好意思说，又很爱面子，又不好意思说，哎呀，我们要有个这多好。
Very important that we maintain friendly relationships, and as peacekeepers, part of that job are the peacekeepers themselves, the way that they interact with people, so that they're humble, they're friendly, they're not trying to be arrogant or shouting or anything. They talk to people as one-on-one. If we can do that, then people will accept us as being, here to help. If we don't do that, then we create a problem for ourselves.
It's not just culture that the peacekeepers have to negotiate with their new colleagues, but language too.
There are a large number of nationalities working for the UN in South Sudan. This is fairly normal because it's the member states who contribute troops, for example, to these UN peacekeeping missions. In South Sudan, you will find Nepalese, Rwandans, people from Burundi, India. It's a really multicultural environment, and what that means, of course, is that for people who are new to the region or don't speak one of the regional languages or English, it can be quite difficult to communicate sometimes.
Come this way. 我明白了 I see.
我们的语言就可能不同，不像一些就是西方国家，他们这个有语言的优势。我们这个中国军人可能在语言上可能就这个稍微的弱一点。这样的交流啊，我感觉不光是给我们一些文化交流，我们也会学习一些他们的语言，这样锻炼一下我们的这种英语的水平。
注意 ，Be careful. Be careful. Come this way.
The new environment also poses the soldiers a challenge. The peacekeepers must keep their base safe not just from the civil war, but from South Sudan's dangerous insects. Malaria is endemic in this part of the country. To protect from this debilitating disease, they must try and eliminate the mosquitoes that carry it. This is a powerful mosquito repellent. Each week, soldiers must apply it across the base. But it's so strong, they must wear full protective equipment to do so. It's a small job, but the peacekeeping mission rests on it being done successfully.
感觉没啥感觉，挺好的。以前就干这个的，蚊子杀手 ，mosquito killer。
Tasks like this keep the soldiers ready for action. South Sudan's civil war sometimes threatens the perimeter of the UN base in Juba. A significant firefight broke out recently, and the peacekeepers must deal with the fallout from the battle. Here, a special group take the lead. The unit of 14 female peacekeepers.
The UN has a mixture now of female and male soldiers, and I think it's a very, very clever move because women are perceived to be less hostile, less threatening in South Sudan.
If we have women peacekeepers, they have an ability to interact and communicate with women. We get to find out information about things that are needed or problems that they're facing that we can do something about.
Yuan Xiaoqing and her team patrol the perimeter of the base.
当时这里留下了大批的子弹。
An area stretching 200 meters around UN House is now designated a weapons-free zone. Hundreds of people live within this zone. On the patrol, Yuan is shocked by what she finds in these communities.
那在这些子弹里面，不只有步枪弹，还有一些高机弹，很多子弹，各种子弹都有。这些小孩拿到这些子弹，由于他们平时也没有什么玩具好玩，但是在我们一般人的概念里面，小孩子和子弹这两样东西放在一起是很不和谐的。Where you found this?
Yuan and the peacekeepers approach a group of children, playing with dangerous ammunition.
所以我们在一次巡逻过程中就试图要向这些小孩跟他们要这个子弹，但是这些小孩他都不愿意给我们。
Here, the deep-seated tensions that have been exploited in the civil war are revealed to the peacekeepers.
其中一个小孩拿出他手上的报纸，指着上面的马夏尔告诉我说：“马夏尔 is good。”但是当说到基尔的时候，双眼充满了愤怒，告诉我说：“他们要杀掉他，他们要杀掉基尔。” 在他们的眼里，丁卡族所有的人都是他们的仇人，他们都立誓要杀掉丁卡人，但是却不知道为什么。这就是种族矛盾带来的后果。
So not every situation can you predict exactly what is going to happen. They're not all the same. So a soldier needs to be able to think, understand the consequences of his actions, and be able to act accordingly for that.
Eventually, the peacekeepers are able to persuade the young boys to part with their bullets.
This is for you, and that one is for you, okay?
But they drive a hard bargain.
Give this to us, okay?
Okay. Let me start it.
3, 4, 5, 6, 19. Thank you for your bullet, and I will give you some drink, okay? 31. I saw you. 1 by 1.
31 bullets are now out of the hands of the children of South Sudan. The work of the peacekeepers often sees them spending long days patiently observing their surroundings. Often, very little happens that they must respond to. But they must be ready at all times. To keep in shape, exercise is important for those not on patrol or in the sentry posts. Some choose to do this in the gym. Some opt to dance. Others take a more traditionally Chinese approach.
好就参加了武术队了。就是说武术队，因为可以想象的武术队全是男的，就我一个女的，所以就这样。因为去那边武术队训练的话，就是这边队长也是管得挺严的，就是说他对那个武术表演的质量也是看还挺高的，毕竟是你代表一个国内国外这一个展示中国武术的一个传统的一个文化的平台。刚刚去的第1个星期就跟着他们就开始训练武术动作，在沙地上，沙地还有很多小石疙瘩。
Chen didn't study martial arts in China, but she took it up to remind her of home and to make sure she's in top physical shape to do her peacekeeping duties. In South Sudan, a group of Chinese peacekeepers travelled to hospital on a special mission.
今天呢是世界不少献血日，联合国要求呢就是献爱心，组织咱们这个步兵营啊，抽20名这个官兵进行献血。我们1级医院呢，我带队过来保障大家的献血的安全，怕途中这个献血过程中呢出现一些意外情况，所以我带队过来参与这个献血活动。
World Blood Donor Day was started in 2003 as a way to encourage voluntary, unpaid donations of blood across the world. Blood transfusions can save lives in many routine medical operations. But in South Sudan, the demand for blood far exceeds the supply of donations.
当地的卫生条件很差，作为一名维和军人，不仅仅执行维和任务，能为当地的卫生事业尽自己的一点微薄之力，我感到非常的荣幸，因为我的一次献血可能拯救一个人的生命。
Each Chinese soldier today is giving 350 mils of blood to Juba's civilian teaching hospital.
It's really great. I saw the opportunity. We really appreciate this. I saw the excitement. We are really grateful for that, especially the Chinese battalion. They came in a large group today, and we are really happy and a very organized team. And most of them are excited to donate, and that's really touch our heart. It's really to see people who like to help the South Sudanese community like this. So today I would like to thank you especially.
The peacekeepers go on medical missions further afield. To build relations with the population, the peacekeepers take their medical expertise out to the population whenever they can. In the village of Kuda, the Chinese medics get to work, meeting village elders and setting up a temporary medical station. Some problems they can solve. Others they can only give advice to.
可能通过我们军队走出去执行这个维和这个事上，就能看出来我们国家这种诚意吧。因为最起码是从我们每一个去执行这个任务的官兵身上，就是我们这是最基层的一粒沙子，一粒就是我们这是最基层的一个人。就从我们的内心来讲，我们都能够认识到，我们是在帮助他们，我们不是在干其他的事。那我可能就是感觉，可能就是我们各级应该都有这种意识。我们楚国确实是真心实意的去帮助其他的国家，帮助其他国家的一些受苦受难的一些人民，去帮助他们解决一些困难，帮助他们干一些有实际意义的一些事。就我们自己都这样想的。
Today, there's an urgent medical situation the peacekeepers must deal with. This woman has just gone into labour, and the nearest hospital is 30 kilometres away. Luckily, the peacekeepers have not only their all-terrain vehicles, but the hard-won experience of travelling across these bone-shaking roads. With the full attention of the convoy of Chinese soldiers, the woman arrives at the hospital just in time to deliver a healthy baby boy.
因为刚开始就是面临那种不信任的问题，怎么解决这个问题啊？就是我们一步步的去做工作，就是说我通过我的站岗执勤啊，通过我的医疗救助啊，通过一系列的办法，让他看到啊，中国军人是来保护我们的，中国军人是为我们好的。也是一步步，就是说履行自己使命的一个过程。
Inside China Battalion, the summer celebration of Dragon Boat Festival gives the soldiers a chance to connect with their roots. The army chefs cook seasonal Chinese snacks to share with their fellow peacekeepers from across the globe. And the soldiers find ways to relax, just as they would at home. Lieutenant Colonel Liu Changjun even challenges a group of peacekeepers to a game of volleyball and captains the Chinese team to a narrow victory. In the evening, the soldiers let off steam. And entertain each other with traditional performances. It's a small taste of what's to come, as this battalion has almost completed its mission. China's peacekeepers have come to the end of their time in South Sudan. Over 1 year, Liu Changjun, Wang Zhen and Liu Jian have led their team of 700 soldiers through thick and thin. Now, the United Nations honours these soldiers as they complete their mission.
Let me begin by conveying, on behalf of the Secretary General of the United Nations, the gratitude to the government of the People's Republic of China. There are currently 2,639 Chinese peacekeepers working in 10 UN missions, including here in South Sudan. This is by far the largest contribution out of the permanent 5 members of the Security Council.
I can honestly say that if it wasn't for our peacekeeping operation here, there would have been tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who will be dead today, who are alive today because our presence is here.
Each of China Battalion's peacekeepers receives the United Nations Medal for Service. Recognition for the dedication, commitment, and professionalism of the troops. In their final days, the team reflect on their time as peacekeepers.
这一年的维和任务呢，对我距离生涯来说是永远 不可忘记的一次任务，给我的战友们这个在一起呢，就感觉到是永远不可分割的亲密战友啊。
我这些事以后再去回过头来看，我们对维和就是感觉对他有了更深层次的一个认识吧，觉着维和你到底维护的谁的和平，维护的谁的利益，展现的是一种什么东西。
这个我感觉你看是当我们到达第一天，我感觉从第一天再到1年之后的那一天，这中间是365天，这65天我感觉是一种成长的一个过程。因为我们也没有这种能力去把他们仇恨给消除掉，但是我们能够尽到我们最大的职责，给当地的百姓提供一种保护。假如我能给他保护15天，那么他这最起码，他这种15天是他人生当中是最幸福的。
The soldiers have also grown in the eyes of their leader, Liu Chengjun.
我们过去可能有好多种怀疑，说年轻的官兵行不行啊？或者战火来临了，他们经受住了检验。
Liu has one last briefing of his team.
整个返程途中，严守纪律，展示好良好的形象。
Before they are able to pack up and head to the airport.
想想，这个在南苏丹这1年经历了很多，我们经历过战火，经过很多任务，然后见证了兄弟情，回去这以后，大家可能见面的机会就不多了，希望大家还是能珍视这段感情，这个以后有困难互相帮助。
有什么想说的？
在南苏丹最大的收获就是减肥成功嘛。
These soldiers are returning home, heroes in the eyes of each other and their fellow countrymen.
出的非常白头，
拥抱一下。
对，首长好，我是步兵1连连长王震。
我们以后为部队建设的动力。
China continues to help South Sudan. Another battalion of peacekeepers arrives to replace the departing heroes. And as they get to grips with life in UN House, Liu is pleased to know that they will continue his mission.
那么从大的意义上讲，世界和平，所有的国家都和平稳定，当然大家人人受益。那么我们为这份和平去贡献份力量，